So if could you backtrack a little bit and talk, if you don't mind, about the Northern Lights thing? You said that. Well, so here's the thing. Here's my understanding of the Northern Lights. I know what they are. I know that they're always there, but I guess the weather doesn't always present itself like the Milky Way when it's cloudy to be able to see the Milky Way. So like, why is it that this place where you go or used to do the guiding, why is that I guess better than other places? And in that time of year, I guess why is it better during that time of year to like see the Northern Lights?
Well, so the reason that the aurora is good in specific places has to do with the magnetic fields of planet Earth. And so the magnetic field is basically attracting these charged particles that have been flung off the sun, and they hit the Earth in very specific patterns based on the forces, the magnetic forces. And so it's actually a ring or an oval that is set on the magnetic pole. And so if you are looking for places to go see aurora, you want to cross-reference your auroral oval map. And there are a lot of data out there that, I mean, it's easy to find this stuff. University of Alaska Fairbanks Geophysical Institute has web pages and web pages and web pages based on that. But it basically starts in like, the good places would be like Tromsø, Norway, Iceland, southern Greenland. Churchill, Manitoba is kind of the southern extent of it, but because it's centered on the magnetic pole, not the geographic pole, so it dips down south there, and then it goes up through like Yellowknife, and then like just north of Fairbanks, Alaska. I usually think of it as like Coldfoot or Wiseman, somewhere right in there. And so then you cross-reference that with, just like you were saying, it's atmospheric conditions that let you see through to aurora. So you have to look and see which ones have the highest number of clear skies. If you just want to see, so you want someplace that's really cold, because places that are cold, you don't have a lot of moisture in the air, so you have fewer clouds. So you look at places like Churchill, Manitoba. A lot of the aurora tours to Churchill, they were 3 or 4 days people got to look for aurora. And I went, one time I think I went 17 straight nights with seeing the aurora. Uh, and then Yellowknife is a good one. And then Fairbanks is really good. It's accessible. So not just aurora, like if you're talking for photographic purposes, but you've got reflections of the aurora in the water. But there are more clouds, so you have to go for longer to ensure that you get an aurora show. And then the whole thing goes on these kind of 27-day cycles. And then you also need to be aware of ambient light. Just like looking for the Milky Way, you're not going to see it from Manhattan.
Right. And if you're next to a city, forget about it.
Yeah. So the aurora, though they're huge and impressive or have the potential to be, they're not as bright as you might think, so that they can be overshadowed by a full moon. So for photographic purposes, I like to be in the like bottom quarter or bottom half of the moon phase. Then another tricky thing for viewing, if you go when it's absolutely dark, it's really hard to walk around. You end up running into stuff and falling over. So it is nice to have a little moon so you're not running into doors and stuff. So given all that information, everybody's got to kind of run their own equations and see
and figure out what's best.
What you just want. It's pretty easy. You pick one of those places that's clear and dark and cold. Pick it in the new moon end of the moon phase, and boom, just go hang out and drink coffee, stay up late, sleep all day. Yeah. It really messes with the sleep cycle.
Wow, that's cool, man. It's definitely on my bucket list. I haven't seen them yet. I have friends who have like tried and failed. Actually, they like went to Iceland, I think, and then they just, when they were there, it just didn't pop up. The conditions weren't right, and they spent whatever amount of money, were there for 5 or 6 days, and then kind of like struck out. So, wow.
Well, it's getting easier because there are apps on your phone that'll give you an alert. Like they know where you are. Your phone knows where you are. They GPS track you or whatever. And so if the aurora is going to turn up in your neck of the woods,
it'll alert you.
It'll give you a text alert and say, hey, go outside and look north or whatever. But it's since it's coming, you have varying rates of material coming off the sun. So if you've got what's called a solar storm or a coronal mass ejection, a CME, if you want to get nerdy with it,
Right.
it will it'll broaden the band where you can see it. So it's the KP index, it's called, which is basically a function of how far south you can see the aurora. So if you're in Churchill or Yellowknife or Coldfoot, you might only need a KP index of 2. Actually, one of the best shows I've ever seen was a KP 2. But if it's a KP 7 or 6 or 7, like you can see it just north of Seattle.
Whoa.
Like, I mean, and the biggest solar storm that I've been able to records for was in, oh shoot, now it's, the year's escaping me. I'm not in Aurora brain mode. I'd have to look it up. But
Yeah, no worries.
but Puerto Rico one time. Yeah, the solar storm was so big that, and Puerto Rico is at like 20 degrees north latitude. So you have to theorize that you could see pretty much around the whole globe.
Wow. Man, that is cool.